right, I'm right. And when I'm right, I come out and say I'm right. I'm wrong, I say I'm wrong, but I'm right. I have been saying for quite some time now about Miles Morales. Miles Morales is a character Marvel has no idea what to do with. He was created to be just a black version of Spider-Man. That's it. That was his big thing. He was Black Spider-Man. And people could argue and say whatever they want about how Miles is an interesting character. He really isn't. There's nothing unique about Miles other than his skin color and what they're trying to push that as. He's got the same powers as Spider-Man with a one or two little additions in there that could be traced back to other characters. I think most likely like Spider-Woman and stuff, in there. It has that power, but overall, it's a character with no real development. When they first brought out Miles Morales, I read a couple issues of it. I was not very impressed. It was like pretty much reading Spider-Man stories, just with a black boy in there as Spider-Man instead of Peter Parker. That's really what it is. And this is why I keep saying that overuse of the multiverse has become a rather bad trope for comics. There's no creativity anymore. So recently I did the video about Miles Morales where this new when they did this whole thing with him as Thor and the racial controversy that caused, because it pretty much showed that here's a writer who has no idea about anything, because you don't know you probably never spoken to a black person, an actual black person in your life, other than the people within your circle of woke idiots who just tell you what it is to tell you. So the entire the words in it, the story, everything came off as very offensive. People were very upset. I said before, it didn't shock me because I know how they see us. That's pretty much it. As a black man, I know how these so-called social justice warriors really see us. So, on my point now about why I'm right, when you see shill media sites come out saying this thing, and CBR is the top of the top when it comes to shill media sites, when they have to agree with what I've been saying, that tells you, yeah, I was pretty much damn right, because here it is, Miles Morales. What if stories hint at larger problem for Marvel's Ultimate Spider-Man? Miles Morales has been around for a decade now. Really, that long? What if only proves that Marvel has yet to really define him as his own character? He never was his own character. Was this a basic, lazy version of, Spider-Man but black? Or put it in a nicer way, Spider-Man with blackface. If you want to put it that way. I mean, it might be offensive, but it's the truth. It's the truth. Miles Morales has been a part of Marvel Comics for over 10 years now, and visually he's quite recognizable and distinct. The really only reason he's recognizable and distinct is mainly because of the Spider-Verse movie. I think the majority of people pretty much kind of forgot who Miles Morales was as Spider-Man was, if they even knew at all. The problems with Miles comes when the costume is taken off. It's probably when the costume is on also, but okay. Leaving a character who's still fairly undefined from a characterization standpoint. Failing to make a real mark for himself and get out from under Peter Parker's shadow, Miles' journey to having a niche of his own is curtailed by Marvel's current publications with the character. But this is not really shocking. They never really properly developed Miles Morales as a character. It was from the very beginning, because it's Bendis who did it, but from the very beginning, they just wanted to race swap Spider-Man. It's the same thing with Riri Williams. They weren't interested in giving you a character you would be interested in. What they were interested in was just swapping in a character and figuring, okay, we put in this character as a different race or a different sexuality in some cases, and you're going to love this character because you have to love this character. We will be selling the name, not the character. So you didn't develop Miles Morales at any instance whatsoever. I mean, yes, he's part black and I think part Puerto Rican or something like that, but Apart from that, skin color and race, what is there to the character? Virtually nothing. The What If series currently stars numerous variants of Miles as a respective universe's version of another Marvel hero. Yeah, that's not stupid at all. While the concept sounds interesting, not really. It only highlights how much of a blank slate he still is. I've been saying that from the very beginning. You could just, anytime you could swap in characters and color them as pretty much anything you want. You're a blank slate. Case in point, different thing, but you know, John Kent comes to mind there, okay. All the while begging the question of his real purpose in the Spider-Man mythos. Doesn't have one. There should only be one Spider-Man. It also makes What If as a concept feel more insular than ever. Here's how, despite constantly pushing him, Marvel has underutilized Miles Morales. I mean, yeah, he was also the Hulk in one as well, yeah. After a decade of existence, the one thing that stands out about Miles Morales is his rivalry with his villainous uncle Aaron, something I'm sure a lot of people don't know about or even care about. This has been the one constant brought up in the current What If series, where Miles is reimagined as heroes such as Hulk, yep, Wolverine and Thor. I did videos on him as Wolverine and Thor. I didn't bother to do one on Hulk because I was like, I'll just get fed up with it at that point. For one thing, this utterly undermines the series' basic premise, which, to be fair, is limiting as compared to DC's Elseworlds equivalents. Several What If stories are simply what if X character was Y character. This seems rather repetitive even for big-time superheroes like Peter Parker, Iron Man, or any of the X-Men. I'm telling you, when a shill site like CBR has to agree with me that all these constant multiversal swappings is lazy, stupid, and pathetic, when even they can't hide it, you know that something is showing there. In the case of those characters, however, they at least have a mythology, supporting cast, and established villains to reinterpret to fit the story. Miles, on the other hand, lacks much in the way of that. Even after a decade of stories, in contrast, half of Peter Parker's classic villains and supporting cast members were introduced within 2 years or so of his own debut, making Miles lack thereof particularly and problematic. Miles has had constant ongoing books to his name, not to mention appearances in movies, cartoons, and video games. The fact that all he has to show for it is his uncle and perhaps his friend with a gank or the game. What the hell is this? Says a lot about how Marvel has stalled with his development. Exactly. You see, let me stop right there. I'll continue in a second, but here's the thing. It's lazy. Said this before, I'll say it again. It's lazy. It's lazy storytelling, lazy creativity, well, lack of creativity on the whole. A number of, whether it be Marvel, whether it be DC, these so-called companies and their writers are creatively bankrupt. They have these classic heroes who they don't like. You understand me? They don't put people to write these books who actually like these characters anymore. No. These people don't care. They don't business. They just make a quick buck and go home. That's it. They don't like these characters. So you don't hire people who love comics. You hire people who are activists and want to put their own things into it. When it comes to Miles Morales, create him as a unique character. Instead of swapping him as Spider-Man, says there's one Spider-Man. That's Peter Parker. You want to have a character as Miles Morales, you create a backstory for him, you give him unique powers, you give him unique abilities, you give him unique villains, you give him a unique world unto himself that can blend naturally with the Marvel universe. This is how you create characters. But when you don't do that, and you say to yourself, listen, all that we have to do is just make Peter darker and figure to ourselves that once we put him in a costume, send him out there, people are going to love it, they're going to be so happy, they're going to be so thrilled, that's all it's going to take. And now after a decade, here we have CBR saying Marvel has no idea what the hell to do with Miles Morales. Well, did they ever have any clue what to do with Miles Morales? No. From the start, it was doomed. I have said so. Other people have said so. If you check out Young Ripper, he constantly says it. It's the truth. YouTubers like myself are not just here shouting or spewing nonsense, you know. We are invested in these franchises, in these characters, and we see crap for what crap is. And when we tell you, listen, this is going badly from the start, it's because we see where it's going to end up. And so does Marvel, and they know that, but they figure to themselves that, that listen, people are just going to hand us their money for any garbage that we put out. No, you have to put out quality stuff to get readers interested, and you're not doing that. Another problem that these what-if issues highlight is that Miles could literally be slotted into any character's mythology without missing a beat. Exactly. Whether he becomes Hulk, Thor, or anyone else, he loses nothing because that would require having iconic stories or a tight connection to Spider-Man. To lose, it doesn't make sense. I said it just now. Create your own character. Unique powers, unique abilities, unique villains. Craft a world around this character, then blend them into Marvel. You're not doing that. You're putting these characters out there as blank slates that could just be colored into anything. Miles is simply one of several spider people swinging around New York City and the multiverse. It's cheap and stupid. You cheapen Spider-Man, the original Spider-Man, Peter Parker, by making a bunch of spider people. This makes Peter Parker less unique. Thank you. But it also dilutes his brand with characters who are in many ways almost exactly the same as him. Let me read that back one more time. This makes Peter Parker less unique, but it also dilutes his brand with characters who are in many ways almost exactly the same as him. Marvel has struggled to produce stories with Miles that absolutely require him over Peter Parker. Because it doesn't. Why would anybody say, we need help, call Miles Morales, when Peter Parker's right there? Without any defining stories, he's had nothing to really set him apart as a vital part of the Spider-Man family. This could even include having him be completely separate from the family at large, as this is how Spider-Woman and Spider-Man 2099 typically operate. Well, those are two characters that are waste of time in my humble opinion anyway. I mean, I didn't mind seeing Spider-Man 2099 in the Spider-Verse thing with Web of Life and all that kind of thing. But again, as I say, do it once and done. And Spider-Woman, I mean, they even did that whole thing with Spider-Woman was pregnant. So, what the hell what kind of thought is that? Their stories and settings are far removed from what Peter usually engages in, and they've developed their own story because of it. No, not particularly, because nobody really reads those anymore either. They put them out there, make it seem like they were interested, and it just kind of fizzled out after a while. Spider-Woman arguably should be closer to the rest of the Spider-Man family than she is, but Miles Morales is definitely on the opposite end of that spectrum. Even Ben Reilly, the second Spider-Man, yes, Ben Reilly, I think he's a villain now called Chasm or something like that. I mean, come on, the clone thing, another overused, ridiculous trope. Should have just ended that over time and done. Makes it a conscious decision that he's not Peter Parker and he's a literal clone. Look, I'm not going to go through the rest of this, but I'm just going to tell you. Again, I was right. This is not me bragging, this is just a fact. You keep putting out these things. This character, I mean, Miles Morales as Thor was a horrible comic. It was stupidly done. It showed borderline racism. But overall, Miles Morales as a character has no depth to him, no personality, no nothing. Bendis created this character. to simply be a black version of Spider-Man. It did not work. It does not work. I've said so many times. And now CBR is finally admitting what I have been saying all this time. I said before, when you hear us say these things, and I'm referring to YouTubers like myself, say these things, it's not because we're trying to be difficult. It's because we are invested in these characters, in this industry, and we see where it is going, so we speak up and say something so people will understand. Listen, this is not going to work. It's not about people being racist or people being this or people doing that. I mean, when you swap characters, race, gender, sexuality, it's lazy because you're not even trying to create anything new. You're just saying to yourself, well, listen, we could ride this horse until it falls down and dead. That's it. And this is what they've done. They've taken Miles Morales, a character who had no personality, no nothing, put him in there, and now CBR is admitting Marvel has no idea what the hell they're doing. Something I've been saying for the longest while. Let me know in the comments what you think about it. If you have a different opinion, I'd love to hear it. If you like the video, be sure to hit that thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. Ring the notification bell to be notified every time I put out a new video. Be sure to share the video out there. It really helps. And I shall see you all next time. Take care.